Okay, so the design we're looking at the moment has been done as a kind of free form. It's not a cylinder exactly, it's been shaped in different sort of directions. This is a much harder kind of thing to do, but there's still some techniques that can be used to do this more easily. So if you look at the bottom down here, I'm just going to step you through how this was built. So I'm going to pull this all the way back to the end. There's nothing on the page, and I'm going to step through a step at a time. So this is the key to it. The first 3 or 4 parts of this design were designed in a different environment. They were designed in this environment up here, which is a little form creation environment. So the initial design was created, the shape, then the top and then the bottom were basically made solid, and then the whole thing was put together as one object. So from that point onwards, when we come out of that environment, out of this form sculpting environment, we're back to normal then. We're able to sort of draw and put cylinders and extrusions and all the kind of things you've already seen to actually make the rest of the design up. So you can see these are just chamfers going on, separate model being made for the lid, for the cap, and so on. And I'm just stepping through the various stages, doing the chamfers and so on. So there's nothing there that you haven't already seen. Okay, but what you don't know how to do is these first couple of bits here. So that's what we're going to have a look at now. Okay, so we got nothing on the page to start with, so I'm going to switch first of all by going to create a form, and that changes me into a sculpt environment. So you see this has changed at the end here, and I'm going to go into create, and this time I'm going to go for cylinder. I'm going to choose my bottom plane, I'm going to go for the middle, and I'm going to come out to about 75, and I'm going to click my mouse. Now this bit's important. If I click my mouse, this cylinder box opens up for me. If I just press enter a few times, this already goes away, and I want to change things in here. So I've already said that diameter is 75. That sounds about right, but the height's nowhere near. The height should probably be about 180 millimeters. Okay, now the other thing is diameter faces and height faces, and what those are the little subdivisions that the shape is going to be turned into. So I'm going to increase those. I'm going to go for 12 on this one and 8 on this one, and you'll see what that means in a minute when I click OK. Now I can't see much going on in there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my display settings, visual style, I'm going to make it shaded with visible edges. Now you can see what I was on about. So I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 this way and 12 this way when I change those numbers. I can now edit any of these little things. Now I'll show you what that means. If I go for a right hand view, so I'm looking at the thing all in one view, and I'm going to select the first 3 sets like this. In fact, maybe I'll even go for the first 4 sets. Okay, they've all gone blue. Anywhere on that blue, I can right click and I can say edit form, and I get this handle that comes up. Now one of the things I can do with this handle is I can alter the angle of it. Okay, I can change how big and how small it is by sliding that. I can move things around in lots of different ways to kind of deform and alter that shape. So if I click out of that now and go back into my 3D view, you can see I've modeled that shape completely differently now. Okay, but it's just a cylinder. It goes right through. There's no bottom, there's no top to it. Okay, what else can I do? Well, any of these circles that go around, if I click once, you can see that goes yellow. If I double click, the whole thing goes yellow. Now when I'm in that mode, I can right click and edit form, but now I'm only editing that yellow band. So if I decide I want to pull that or do something with it, you can see how bizarre, and I can change the angle to move around and see the different things that I could do with this shape. So I can move it in many different ways to alter what that sculpture looks like. Okay, I can pick individual planes. So if I wanted to pick these, I can hold down Control, pick those 3 and right click and say edit form, and this time now I can do things specifically with that area, and it gives me all sorts of weird and wonderful ways that I can adjust the shape of this form. Now it takes a bit of playing around with, but just to reinforce that, I'll cancel those ones out. You can choose multiple faces and lines. You can choose individual faces or a few of them by holding Control down, or you can choose individual lines and grab those and edit just those ones, or you can click on a line and double click to get the whole of the line up, or even hold Control and do the whole of another line and then edit those by clicking and saying edit form and moving those things about. Okay, so we're going to leave it like that for now, just for fun, and I'll show you what you do next. So I'm going to finish the form, and there's two things I need to do to this. I need to make this top and this bottom solid, and then I need to turn the whole thing into one object. So how do I do that? So I'm going to change from my model environment now, and I'm going to go into this one called Patch. Okay, Patch does exactly what it does. It patches things up. So I want to create a patch first of all for the top. So I'll select this ring, click once, and then say OK, and that's made that solid now. I'm going to go underneath and do the same thing. So at the moment I can see right through it. I don't want to be able to do that. I want to create a patch for that and choose this one, and that's now solid. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to be able to make the whole thing into one object. So I will basically select the whole thing, and I'm going to go modify, and I'm going to go stitch. So stitch puts the whole thing together as one solid object. Now if I want to, I can take off my display setting and make it just shaded, and I can see that geometric shape for what it is. Now I can go in and use my normal tools. So if I wanted to go back into my modeling view and I wanted to put a sketch onto that top surface that was maybe a circle to make the kind of neck of your bottle or something, I could do that. I could click into here, let's zoom in a little bit, try and get the center and come out, and maybe I'll make that 30mm. Okay, stop my sketch, and basically everything works the same now as it would have done previously. I could extrude that shape up to make part of the bottle and put the screw thread on and do whatever else I want to do with it. Okay, so this is probably the most difficult way of doing it, but you can get some really interesting shapes if you follow these simple stages.